Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. Todd Mikkelson here, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, April 7th, 2024 in the space and time continuum. Big eclipse coming tomorrow. And for some reason, everybody's saying that everybody's going to be looking at the sky. And I'm like, what guy? Looking at what guy? What, the eclipse is going on. Why are we looking at some guy? We should be looking at the sky. Oh, I get it. They meant the sky, not this guy. Okay, bad dad joke. I can't help myself. Can't help myself. My apologies. Please don't turn the dial. Yeah, whole lot of Hankey going on in the barn. Who's barn? So you've heard this guy, Don Hankey. He's the guy who put up the bond for Donald Trump. And a lot of new information has come out. So it was announced that Donald Trump successfully put up the bond that had been lowered from $464 million to $175 million by the appellate division. Now, a lot of people think that the whole thing got lowered. It didn't. Just the bond for the appeal got lowered. Donald Trump is not going to win the appeal. He's just doing that to waste more time. When he loses the appeal, he's going to have to pay the full $464 million plus, still to this day, accruing interest. I think it was $110,000 a day. So it's going to be well over $500 million. That's probably going to be pushing $550 million or something like that by the time he has to pay it. So don't think that he's totally getting off. And also, the bond company, turned out that it's not really a bond company, but the company that put up the bond didn't do it correctly. They didn't include, for instance, their own financial statements. They have to prove, I can't just walk in and say, hey, I'm Todd. I'm putting up the bond for Don, my friend Don. Don't worry about it. I got the money. They did the equivalent of that. So the court did not accept the bond. So then the company had to reissue the bond. Sorry, I'm shuffling papers a little bit here. So some details on this. Don Hankey, he's a Trump supporter. He's also part of Axis Bank that has lent Donald Trump money and gotten him out of trouble in the past. The company that put up the bond is called Knight Specialty Company, and there's a parent company called Knight Insurance Company. When Knight Specialty Company issued their financials, the math didn't math. Billionaire math never seems to math. Donald Trump, when he was reporting all his financials in the fraud case, didn't math. It did not math. They're laundering money. They're trying to hide money. So the billionaire math never maths. Knight Specialty Company, in their papers, they have categories like other bonds, $242,923,000. That's just one thing. So it's like cash and bank deposits, $26 million, blah, blah, blah. Bonds, U.S. government, $1 million. Other bonds, $242.9 million. Stocks, $238.9 million. You need to list those bonds and those stocks. Other admitted assets, $18,598,000. What other admitted assets? Is it an asset that you're going to get your legs broken by Tony Soprano if you don't pay him back? Did Tony Soprano lend you $18,598,000 and you're listing that as other admitted assets? You need to say what that is. You need to have a list of those assets. it turns out then, if you do the math, they actually don't have the money. So there's assets that come up to $539,284,000. Liabilities, unearned premiums. Okay, what unearned premiums? Reserved for claims and claims expense. What claims? Funds held under reinsurance treaties. Okay, what reinsurance treaties? These are all liabilities. By the way, that funds under reinsurance treaties, $299 million. And then other liabilities, $33 million. What other liabilities? When you add up the liabilities, it comes to $400,842,000. So the surplus to the policyholders of Knight Specialty Company is $138,441,000. Does that sound like $175 million? No, it sounds like $138 million. Okay. So you're saying that you do not have the money. So then they introduce Knight Insurance Company. And they say, don't worry, the Knight Insurance Company, the parent company, will cover it. But that company is not licensed in New York to do this. So they're not allowed to do that. So right now, the math ain't mathin'. And the president of these companies, he said, well, we're not located in New York, so we don't need to stick to New York rules. Okay, so I live in Minnesota. Say in Minnesota, let's pretend in Minnesota that it's legal to kill somebody. I have a business where I kill people in Minnesota. I go to New York. I kill somebody. In New York, it's illegal to kill people. But I'm going to just say to the police then, no, it's okay. I'm from Minnesota. I'm allowed to kill people. They're going to say, well, no, not in New York. You know, that's how that works. And since this Don Hankey is now loving the attention, apparently, he loves to talk to TV shows and things like that. He went on CNN to talk about how the deal with Donald Trump came together. And, you know, he was talking about, yeah, Donald Trump has liquidity. He said he had the cash. And then he was asked, well, do you know where he got that cash? Hankey said, no, I don't know where he got it. Why should I know that? Well, it just happens to be that there's a law that's referred to as the Know Your Customer law in New York, and it's all about anti-money laundering. So he admitted that his company is violating anti-money laundering and Know Your Customer laws in New York because he does not know the source of Trump's cash collateral. So there are a lot of problems going on here. And then, I mean, Don Hankey might get in trouble for that law and also the fraud of saying I have the money when he doesn't. I mean, there's all kinds of problems going on here, even with the company that put up the bond and Don Hankey. Now, also, let's get Donald Trump's lawyers in trouble. Don Hankey said that he was dealing with Trump. He heard, he heard the news that Trump talked to 30 bonding companies and they all told him to screw off. So Don Hankey's like, oh, I love Donald Trump. That seems like a fairly easy bond to post. Although Donald Trump's lawyers said, it is practically impossible for us to do this or anyone to do this. And Trump going on TV saying, there's never been a bond like this. There's never been a bond this big. There have been thousands and thousands of bonds this big. Actual companies that have money have put up bonds for over $1 billion in these kind of cases. So anyway, Trump doesn't seem to know much, period. I'm not going to say he doesn't seem to know much about this. He doesn't seem to know much, period. Don Hankey then, he tells, I think it's ProPublica, he said, no, I reached out to Trump before the appellate court lowered the bond to $175 million. I was talking to Trump about paying the whole $464 million, and I was willing to take real estate as collateral. They had put up which real estate they would be putting up for collateral. We were getting down to kind of the end of the deal. And then the appellate division said, okay, we'll give you 10 more days and you can pay $175 million instead of $464. So Donald Trump's lawyers called Don Hankey and said, oh, it's just been lowered, so I guess we're good now. We should be able to handle that. And then they couldn't handle it, so they went back to Don Hankey again. But this means that Donald Trump's lawyers lied to the appellate division, First Department, which is the appellate division that lowered it because they were saying it is impossible for us to pay this, almost $500 million bond. They left out the part that, except just at the last minute here, this guy, we've been talking to this guy, and he might do it. Maybe if you just give us 2 more days, we can make a deal with this guy for the whole amount. They left that part out. Well, that's highly against the law and against all, the bar ethics. So now what's going to happen to them? This is going to go on for years. After Trump is put away or dead, this is going to be going on. We're going to be hearing stories about, Alina Habba just arrived in a courthouse today, again in New York City, and she's blah, 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 blah. So many people getting in trouble. It's just such a mess. But this is what happens with mobsters, who don't care about the law. They don't care about telling the truth. By the way, Don Hankey, the way he made his money, I think he's worth like $11 billion. He's a subprime loan guy. So if you can't afford to take a loan out on a car, you go to him. He's like, I think we can make a deal. Yeah, you give me 40% interest. I'll buy the car for you. He's a repo man. I don't understand how that works. If somebody can't afford the loan for the car and then you pay for the car and then ask a lot of interest, they can't afford to pay you the interest either, can they? Then I suppose you take the car back and then make them pay you the interest. I don't know. It's a mobster thing. Subprime lender. Hey, if you can't afford the loan, come to me. I'll shake you down. Give you the money. So it's just all slimy and grimy and hanky. What's so hanky in here? What is going on? Make it so hanky up in here. We've got more to talk about when we come back, and we're even going to go back in time. We're going to do our satellite view time machine backwards in history to learn about what's going on now more clearly. You're listening to a satellite view. I'm Todd Mikkelson. We'll be right back. Satellite view. By the way, if you like the music, go to toddmickelson.com, push the music link, and you can find a bunch of music I've recorded over the decades, including a brand new record I released a couple weeks ago. On Black Monday, October 28th, 1929, the Dow Jones Industrial Average declined nearly 13%. Federal Reserve leaders differed on how to respond to the event and support the financial system. So we're going back in time to 1929. The Roaring Twenties roared loudest and longest on the New York Stock Exchange. Share prices rose to unprecedented heights. The Dow Jones Industrial Average increased 6-fold, from 63 in August 1921 to 381 by September 1929. After prices peaked, economist Irving Fisher proclaimed stock prices have reached what looks like a permanently high plateau. The epic boom ended in a cataclysmic bust. On Black Monday, October 28, 1929, the Dow declined nearly 13%. On the following day, Black Tuesday, the market dropped nearly 12% more. By mid-November, the Dow had lost almost half of its value. The slide continued through the summer of 1932, when the Dow closed at 41.22, its lowest value of the 20th century, 89% below its peak. The Dow did not return to its pre-crash heights until November 1954. Now, a lot of the reason this happened is because, I'm going to read a little bit more from here. The financial boom occurred during an era of optimism. Families prospered. Automobiles, telephones, and other new technologies proliferated. Ordinary men and women invested growing sums in stocks and bonds. A new industry of brokerage houses, investment trusts, and margin accounts enabled ordinary people to purchase corporate equities with borrowed funds. Purchasers put down a fraction of the price, typically 10%, and borrowed the rest. The stocks that they bought served as collateral for the loan. Borrowed money poured into equity markets, and stock prices soared. The collateral was what they were buying. How does that work? Now, part of the reason a lot of this happened was because large corporations were saying, hey, we're great, we're worth a lot. And some of them were lying. Speculation. False speculation. So there's something called the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. In 1933, to react to this, they passed the SEC 1933 Act. Seems like they could have, went to a more creative firm to come up with the name of it. But anyway, the Securities Act of 1933. The Securities Act of 1933 was created and passed into law to protect investors after the stock market crash of 1929. The goal of the act was to create transparency in the financial statements of corporations. You see? Now we come to Truth Social is doing great. It's a pistol. It's doing great. No, it's not. And you saying that now as being part, the major shareholder and part of the operations and ownership of it, or at least the company that owns it, the Trump Media Group, I guess, you're breaking the Securities Act of 1933 rules. It established laws against misrepresentation and fraudulent activities in the securities markets. Truth Social just became put on the market. People can buy shares to it. So now you can't do this crap anymore, Don. Otherwise, you're going to have the SEC is going to come after you. The company is in Delaware. There are some really great class action lawyers in Delaware. And it looks like a lot of people are getting ripped off here, or are going to be. What ended up happening was when it went to market, when it became available, when stocks became available, it soared. And that was all fake, of course. And a lot of it was because of how people were talking about it. People were, being stupid, wanting to support Trump. It soared, and then the financials had to come out because of the SEC Securities Act of 1933. Transparency in the financial statements of the corporation. That was released the day after the company went public, and it said, okay, yeah, we're doing great. Last year, we pulled in $4 million. Of course, we had $58 million in expenses, but, the math ain't mathin'. And the auditor in the financial statement said, I don't know how this company can stay afloat for even another day. I have no idea. I mean, especially when you consider the main guy's past filed at least 6 times for his businesses for bankruptcy. Looks like this is going to be the 7th any moment now. So when that was released, of course, the stock crashed. It went up to, I've heard different numbers. The highest I've heard was almost $70 per share. Now, after this week, where it just kept tumbling, it's down to about $40 $40.75 maybe. So that's quite a tumble. So people are losing money. And Trump owns tons and tons of the stock and, of course, wants to just dump it. It's a pump and dump. And that's not really how you're supposed to do things. The SEC cracks down on things like that. And then these people who are losing money, class action lawsuit maybe against Trump, against that company, Trump Media Group or whatever. I think the actual one is called DJT, just because they had to come up with a name. So in all of this mess, the co-founders of the Trump Media Group, Wesley Moss and Andrew Latinsky, Trump's suing them. They only have 8% of the stake in the company, and Trump is saying that they shouldn't be allowed to even have that. And he's saying that all of this is their fault. They made bad decisions over the last 2 years. Also, what happened was everybody got spanked for the SPAC. A SPAC company is basically a large company that says, we're looking for an entity to buy and or merge with. Now, they cannot talk about who they're considering because that's the equivalent of insider trading, something that a couple of the investors, the Schwarzman brothers, they pleaded guilty to. So in the company that ended up making the Truth Social Trump Media Group even able to have anything whatsoever, the SPAC company that merged with it or bought it, that got delayed for a while because of this insider trading. And now the Schwarzman brothers are pleading guilty to that. People are being sued left and right. People are getting in trouble left and right. It's quite the mess. And of course, SEC is going to come after Trump. And a lot of experts think that there's going to be class action lawsuits as well. I want to play for you something that Barry Diller said on TV last week. He is an American businessman. He is the chairman and senior executive of IAC and Expedia Group. And he also founded the USA Broadcasting. And IAC is an internet and media conglomerate. He started that in 1995. So he earned his money. I think he's a billionaire. I don't know how much he's worth or anything like that, but he's a rich guy. And he actually knows about business. He's in the Television Hall of Fame because he did some really innovative things with TV and the internet. He's a big part of the infrastructure now, online news and things like he even way back was even part of some popular television shows, including The Simpsons. So he's actually earned his money and he actually knows how business works. And here's what he was asked on TV and his reaction.
I got a question, not a political question about former President Trump, but actually a business question about Truth Social. You've seen this stock on the move in this, I'll call it remarkable, maybe even crazy way.
Just say two words, GameStop.
GameStop. That's what you think is going on here?
It's ridiculous.
The
company has no revenue.
But do you think it could ever be a bigger business? Do you think if he wins the presidency, it becomes...
Why?
I'm asking...
Why would it be bigger? Look, he's only interesting now because he's out there entertaining the folks. I hope if he does get elected, he just plays golf for 4 years. But
so do you think that all of the investors in this are getting scammed? Do you think they think this is a transference of wealth from one side to the other, and that's the goal? What do you think is happening?
I think they're dopes. I mean, who would buy a company that literally has, I think, what does it have? $30 of revenue? How could you put a value on it? They're buying it for other reasons, just like they bought theaters when there was no theater business, or they bought GameStop or whatever. It's stupid. It's stupid stuff.
It was 1,000 times revenue, I think.
What?
I think it was wasn't it $4 million? It was
$4 million in revenue. That's $4 million in revenue. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it's not
$4 million.
Why are you even talking about this? It's a scam, just like everything he's ever been involved in is some sort of con.
Let me pivot.
Amazing survival of a con man is just beyond comprehension, but there it is.
So by the way, he's got a great voice, doesn't he? But yeah, He's basically just laughing at Trump and the people who are investing in this. He's calling them dopes, and he's calling Donald Trump a con man, and everything he's involved in is a scam. Kind of refreshing to hear that from a fellow billionaire, or I think he's a billionaire. Say, something interesting happened this week. On Fox News, North Carolina was named a swing state. North Carolina has been a red state for a very, very long time, if not forever. We all think of it as a southern red state. And I've talked about it a little bit on this show before, but Fox News is considering it a swing state. I think for a couple reasons. One is that the guy they're running for governor, the Republican Party is running for governor in North Carolina, is crazy, thinks that the United States should not allow women to vote. He's a Holocaust denier. Also, the North Carolina Democratic Party is doing this thing where they're making sure that they have candidates in every district, even the very red districts, which means the Republicans have to spend money there and actually have to try and campaign there. And when women's reproductive health care rights are so much in everyone's mind, what happened in Alabama, I talked about it last week, I believe. Alabama, a Democratic woman won, not a squeaker. She won by 25 points. That happens in Alabama? No. Yeah, it did. So North Carolina is looking at all of these things. And Fox News is calling it a swing state. I think they think Biden's going to win North Carolina. And people are agreeing with me that looks like he's going to win Florida. I think I'm up to like a 60-40% chance that Biden's going to win Florida. I would say a higher percentage chance that he's going to win North Carolina now. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. And the money. What is going on? Biden campaign raised $90 million in March. They report $192 million in cash on hand. What's going on? I mean, we were all excited because he reported $53 million in February, which was insane. $90 million in March. And 96% of the donations were less than $200. More than 1.1 million donors, making over 1.9 million contributions. It added that it had over 212,000 sustaining donors, more than double the amount at this point in the 2020 cycle, in which Biden bested Trump, we all know, except for Trump. The campaign is embarking on a $30 million 6-week paid media campaign in battleground states, including ad buys targeting Latino, Black, and Asian American and Pacific Islander voters, as well as supporters of Nikki Haley. And a lot of her voters are saying they're going to not just not vote for Trump. They're going to vote for Biden. And half of the Republicans say they will not vote for Trump if he's convicted. Guess what starts a week from tomorrow? The first criminal trial. It is not being delayed. Trump, I think just a couple days ago, tried to put a motion saying it should be delayed again. And it was, nope, it's going on. You're coming into court on April 15th, a week from tomorrow. Andrew Weissman, who knows a lot about this stuff, he thinks, other people go to jail for this crime. He said, I don't think just because Trump has Secret Service, that's not going to hold him back from getting a jail sentence. And a lot of other experts are pointing out that consideration in sentencing in a case like this is how seriously the convicted person is taking the conviction. Well, how seriously is Trump taking it? I mean, if there's somebody in court who's like remorseful and saying, yes, okay, I accept my verdict. I accept that I need to be punished. Trump's not saying that. It's this is a scam. This whole thing should not even be going on. He's showing no respect. He's, has to have gag order after gag order put on him. That's all going to be considered. Trump's mouth might get him thrown in jail more than anything else. Michael Cohen went to jail for this exact same crime. And in all of his paperwork, the not yet convicted co-conspirator, everyone knew was Donald Trump. Well, he's convicted now. Michael Cohen got convicted on this exact same crime and went to jail. His co-conspirator, Donald Trump, is going to trial next Monday. Interesting times we live in, to say the least. It's getting interesting. Big Barrel of Popcorn 2024. Get yours now. Wherever you can find it. I don't know where, but go out and look for your barrel of popcorn because it's getting fun. Are you having fun? I know it gets grueling. Remember to listen to the right people, the people who actually know what's going on. Don't listen to the people who are still saying that there's no way Biden can win. Biden is going to handily win. For instance, Howard Dean, he used to be the head of the Democratic National Committee, and he was a governor. He ran for president. He knows about this stuff. I heard him come on a show, and he said, I'm not worried about Biden winning this, but it is going to mean the end of the Republican Party, and something needs to emerge. I don't know if it's going to be a party that's more or less conservative, but no, I'm not worried about Biden winning, but it is going to mean the end of the Republican Party. That's said by Howard Dean, who knows how a lot of this stuff works. So keep your head up, and inside the barrel of popcorn, keep listening to A Satellite View. I'll help you stay sane. I'll even help you have fun throughout this year. You and I need to stick together to help each other argue for things that are good and against things that are bad. That's what we're doing here. We're going to get through this year. It is going to be fun, and we're going to come out the other side in a great space. I'm telling you. I'm guaranteeing you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of A Satellite View. Talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.